Hey everyone, this is Jim with Harvest Harmonics, and I want to welcome you here to our episode here of The Profitable Farmer. And today I'm going to drop some science on you. I'm going to drop some knowledge bombs on you guys. So hopefully you guys are prepared. If you guys are catching this live at the end of your week and looking for some good old chatter, I just want to let you know that I wanted to kind of talk about some of the science behind, not just behind our product, but behind plant health and plant growth. Because I think in just talking to so many farmers, that there's such a wide gamut of knowledge and in some cases lack of knowledge as far as how plants actually work, how they actually grow. I mean, we all know that if you put fertilizer or nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium in your soil, and you make sure that the soil's right and you water them enough, that you're going to get a good crop. And a lot of farmers have their own know-how and techniques and technologies and ways of getting things done and producing good crops. And of course, we all, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an agronomist or a soil scientist or anything like that, but I think that it'd be really good for us to really understand how plants really work, how they produce energy, how they actually grow, how they get the energy they need in order to grow healthy and strong, as well as how to get the energy they need to produce high quality fruits and vegetables. This is all, it's all well and good to be able to have the knack of being able to grow a good crop, but sometimes it's really good to delve a little deeper and to figure out how this all works. Because the more you know about this, the more, first of all, the more my technology is going to make a lot more sense, but also the more your overall, the way you're doing agriculture is going to make more sense. And that's kind of what I wanted to share with you today. And as we go through this, if you're looking at our technology from the standpoint that it seems a little strange or seems a little out there, or maybe even seem far fetched, I want you to understand that, there was a quote by Arthur C. Clarke, who was a famous science fiction writer back in the 30s and 40s. And he said that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And there's a lot packed into that statement. In other words, if a technology is advanced enough above and beyond what the current norm is, then it's going to seem like magic. And let me just give you a quick, simple example. I mean, we all have one of these in our pockets, right? You may not have a Samsung. Maybe you have an Apple phone. You have a Samsung. Maybe you have an off-brand. It doesn't matter. But you all have one of these in your pocket, and we carry these around. And sometimes we take for granted what this little device can do. This little device, or cell phones, can do is pretty amazing if you stop and think about it. Especially if you stop and think about, 20 years ago. When this came out, the first iPhones came out, I think in 2006 or 2007, so about 14, 15 years ago. But 5 years before that, we had these little flip phones, and 5 years even before that, there was no such thing as the internet. There was no such thing as a flip phone or even a cell phone for that matter. And we were all walking around and we had to communicate without this. So imagine if you go back to yourself, you hop in your DeLorean, your time machine, and you go back to 1985 and you say, hey, we've got these computers, and they're not these big, giant, clunky machines like you have on your desk right now. We have a computer that's 100 or even 1,000 times faster than the big, clunky thing on your desk over there. And it fits right here in the palm of your hand. I can uh, send email messages. I can send instant text-based messages. I can send pictures. I can take pictures of myself or whatever I'm doing and send a picture to people all over the world. I can communicate with people all over the world without having to have a phone plan or anything like this. And I have a computer that's 1,000 times more powerful than anything that's on the market today. And they would look at you like you're crazy. You'd probably look at yourself, your future self, and say, "Wow, okay, sure thing." And we wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't understand, because it's too far ahead of where the existing technology is. And that's sort of where Harvest Harmonics has been running into in the last few years. Is it's too far ahead of the game for us to really accurately and easily explain it to somebody who doesn't necessarily have the background in plant science or the way bioenergy works, to really be able to grasp it easily. And so I wanted to take a few minutes today in this presentation, not necessarily to talk so much about our technology and promote, but really just about helping you guys understand the way plants work, because I think it will help make the benefits of our technology a lot more clear, as well as help you really understand what that fertilizer you're using is doing. So let's just hop in here. I'm going to share my screen. And if you have questions along the way, of course, feel free to ask. I'm here to help you guys. So um, let me share my screen here with you. Just going to share my screen. And I'm going to go over to this one. The first thing I want to show you guys, and this is an article. It's actually OMICS online, so it's an actual research website. Okay, this is not our website. This is not something we're promoting, but this is a research website. And the topic, I just Googled this, and the Google search term that I used to find this was bioenergetics. Now, bioenergetics in photosynthesis in terms of like how bioenergetics works in plants and in photosynthesis. Now, just to define some terms real quick, bioenergetics just means the way that a biological system or living thing transmits and generates energy. So it has to do with the energy transfer and the energy production of biological systems. So in a nutshell, it's basically like the energy system of a living thing. So human beings have a bioenergetic process, and that's how we digest food, right? We eat food. Our bodies convert one type of food energy into a different type of energy, and we use it for food. We get energy out of it. A plant takes energy from the sun and the raw materials of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, water, carbon dioxide, and it utilizes the sun's energy to convert that sunlight energy into other things that it uses for energy. I'm going to just define this term here. So I searched this up because really, if you look at bioenergetics, how a plant or how anything gets its energy, you'll really understand. Um, you kind of look at this from a different viewpoint, and you really understand why what you're doing is so important, right? So bioenergetics in photosynthesis. I'm just going to highlight this so you guys can see it here. And I'm going to try to. I'm going to just try to maybe do this first few lines here. I'm going to just read this off to you. It says bioenergetics in photosynthesis is the major biological processes that occur inside the cells of plants, algae, and certain bacteria, converting light energy into chemical energy obtained from sunlight is a major source for photosynthetic species. Light energy absorbed by reaction centers um, can present in the chloroplast, which are the little cells in the leaves of plants, obviously, um, resulted in the production of energy in the form of compounds like reduced NADPH and ATP, referred as the energy currency of cells. So essentially what we're talking about is the plants, through photosynthesis, are utilizing the sunlight energy to convert the various raw materials that it gets from the soil, water, carbon dioxide from the air, as well as minerals from from the soil, excuse me. And it's reconverting that into glucose or forms of sugar, which it uses for energy. And then that energy then, of course, is utilized to produce fruits and vegetables and, of course, to grow. So when you're dumping nitrogen-based fertilizer on there, what you're doing is giving the plant the minerals or the elements that it needs in order to convert sunlight energy into other forms of energy. And when you water the plants, again, you provide the plant with the raw materials of photosynthesis. And that's really important because you kind of need to know, like, okay, if I'm just doing nothing but dumping fertilizer on my ground and hoping for a good crop result, it's going to reach a plateau where it's just not going to be able to produce more energy. The reason for that is because a plant has a certain metabolism or rate of change where it can convert one form of energy to another. And if you put too much fertilizer on, you can actually damage the plants. And of course, that costs a lot of money. Now, what we've been telling people in these presentations is that a lot of times a farmer will lose, 60 to 70% of all of of all the fertilizer they're using, and they will lose 60 to 70% of it. Why? Because the plant is only able to absorb so much of that nitrogen and so much of those minerals, and change that into energy. So when a plant is not efficient at its job of its metabolism, it can only utilize so much of those resources, and then the rest is just wasted. Now, what happens to a farmer when he puts tons and tons of nitrogen on soil, and the plants are only absorbing a fraction of that. That means the rest of that nitrogen has to go somewhere. It evaporates into the air and causes greenhouse gases. It leaches into the groundwater and causes algae blooms and other biological problems or environmental problems, let's say. And in other words, for a farmer himself, he's just wasting all that money he's spending on fertilizer if you use too much of it. And so it's really important to understand that if you really want to improve crop yield and energy production, yes, of course, you have to have the raw materials available. But what you really need more than that is to make that plant as efficient as possible so that it can utilize the resources that are available to it more efficiently. In other words, if you only used about 30% of the fertilizer that you normally would use, but you make that plant efficient enough to utilize 70 or 80% of the nitrogen and other compounds, then you're going to get the same yield production with a lot less cost and a lot less environmental damage. And that's what we're talking about with the human oxy plant booster. Now, I want to go a step further here in this discussion. Again, these articles are freely available. You just Google them. Again, I Googled the term bioenergetics and photosynthesis because, again, I wanted to find out how that process of photosynthesis is helping the energy production of that plant. And the second one I wanted to go into was an article, and I have to go back here to remember my search term here. What happens to the metabolism of a plant under heat stress? Again, I just Googled this, Google search this. What happens to the metabolism of a plant under heat stress? Now, I searched that because we all know what happens in summertime when what happens? It gets hot. It gets 100 degrees, 105, 110, 115. And a lot of farmers understand the basic concept that when it gets too hot, that plant is not going to produce a good crop or as good of a crop as it would. But the question is why? What happens to that plant? Well, what happens to the plant in general is that heat stress, and I'm going to scroll down here. Heat stress, and I'm going to just highlight this little section here. Heat stress leads to the inhibition or reduction of plant photosynthetic activity by damaging key components functioning in a variety of metabolic processes with concomitant reductions in biomass production and crop yield. Now, again, that's a mouthful. This is a research article. This is why a lot of people don't like to read research articles because they use very technical terms. But essentially, all this is communicating is that when a plant is under heat stress, as an example, it will reduce or inhibit the photosynthetic activity of the plant. Now, it goes into some of the technical aspects of this, but I know just as a layman that one of the things a plant does is it closes the stomata or it closes those pores within the leaves of the plant, which it normally would intake carbon dioxide from the air through. And when it closes those pores, that means the plant is limited in terms of how much carbon dioxide it can absorb and utilize. Now, if you reduce carbon dioxide absorption, because it's a necessary component of photosynthesis, it will reduce photosynthetic activity. Now, what did we just talk about in terms of bioenergetics, right? And the energy production of photosynthesis. Well, what we talked about is the photosynthesis is the process by which a plant generates energy. And so if a plant cannot get enough, for example, carbon dioxide, or it can't get enough nutrients and water because of heat stress or other factors, what happens to the plant's ability to make energy? And what happens to that plant to grow and produce fruit and vegetables? Well, again, this piece of this article, and again, you can read the whole article here. It's right here, pubmed.ncbi.nl. You can just do the Google search and read up the full article. I'm not making any particular claims here. I'm just citing this article. So what happens to the plant when it's under heat stress? Well, the metabolism suffers, the metabolism decreases. And when the metabolism of the plant decreases, that means it's going to produce less, it's going to grow less, and it's going to produce less fruits and vegetables. Now, I want you to think for a second about a typical season, not just a strange season or a bad season or whatever, but just think about a typical year that's a 6-month season. Maybe you plant in spring, you harvest in early fall, and you go through the whole summer. So, what happens in the summertime if you get 30, 100 plus degree days? What happens to the energy production of the plant over the course of that whole season? Now, the answer to that question is the plant is going to not produce energy during maybe 20 or 30 days of that season. That could be like 15 to 20% of your season where that plant just is not producing energy or not producing much. So what then are you doing when you're obviously irrigating and trying to protect your crops? And some farmers irrigate 24/7 just to keep the water going, to keep the plant giving it enough water so it can absorb water and not respirate it all. But a farmer might lose 10 to 15% of the energy that's possible for that season, or maybe even 20 or 30%, depending. Now, if you want to know why our Kiminoxi plant booster is able to increase yields by 20, 30, 60, 70%, 100%, and you think that those numbers are crazy, you have to understand the reason why it's doing that. The reason why the Kiminoxi plant booster is doing that and producing numbers like that is because we're literally giving the plant back 20% of the time it has available to produce energy. And of course, that energy is translated into fruit and vegetable production and quality. That's why when we go through our results, we see improved quality, improved bricks, improved sizing, improved quantity, improved weight. We're seeing all these different factors, and we're seeing quality factors as well because we're giving that plant the ability to produce energy at its optimum level, even in stress conditions like heat stress. So I'm going to share with you one more thing here, and again, I just want to cover this while we have this here because this is really important information when you need to understand why um, we're able to get such big numbers and why it's so important for farmers to understand this. Again, our technology is based upon the fact that a plant, when it's under, it has a natural frequency or natural pattern by which it operates. And actually, I shared the wrong screen here with you. Nope, I didn't have this on the slideshow, so I'll put this on full screen. Sorry about that. So the basis of this technology, again, is every living thing has a frequency by which its metabolism operates. And if that frequency is kept at optimum, that organism, whether it's a human or a duck or an insect or even a plant, if that frequency pattern is kept at optimum, then it will produce energy at its optimum rate. But when a plant or another organism is under stress or is under heat stress specifically, or has insect attacks, predatory insects attacking it, or has a fungal outbreak or disease and it's trying to fight off these things, then the metabolism is actually negatively affected. So it stops producing energy. When it stops producing energy, it stops producing fruits and vegetables, and it stops sending that energy into the fruits and vegetables to make sure it has plenty of bricks and plenty of sizing, etc. So if you've ever wondered why you're getting a good crop or a bad crop and you're blaming your soil and you're blaming the weather and you're blaming everything else, there's actually technical reasons why that's happening. And the Kiminoxi plant booster is designed specifically to recalibrate and enhance the metabolism of plants. Again, we already know what the frequency pattern of an ideal metabolism for a plant should be. And so we program these into microtransmitters and then attach it to your irrigation system. So nothing like this has ever been used before. So if this sounds a little strange or a little odd, it's because nothing like this has really been around before. Nobody else has utilized this technique of actually enhancing the metabolism directly in improving and in harmonizing the plant with its natural metabolism. So when plants absorb the water that has these frequencies in it, it's protected against heat stress. It's protected against fungal outbreaks. It's protected against other problems because its metabolism is operating according to its optimum state on a consistent basis from the time you plant to the time you harvest. And that alone can increase energy production in the plant by 20, 30, 40%. And that's why we're seeing, 20 to 30% increases in yield because the plant has the energy to produce that. So it's very, very important that we really understand that when we're looking at new techniques and new technologies here, it's not always just a matter of understanding, hey, I have a brand new product and I can get you 20% increases in yield. I mean, a lot of people can say that. A lot of people do say that. But there is an actual scientific basis by which we can say that. And obviously, when you look at case study after case study after case study, we're seeing the results on that. So we're seeing 20%, 30%, 50%, 70% increases in yield. And we're doing it because we're restoring the plant's ideal metabolism and allowing it to stay at its high metabolic rate throughout the course of the whole season. So if you guys want more information on this and how it works, please study up on the. You can go back on the recording of this. You can look at the research articles that I've told you about and read up on the science. There's actually a lot of research behind utilizing specific frequencies of radio waves to directly stimulate plant health. And I'm not talking about the stuff from the 50s and 60s of playing music for your plants. That did have some workability, but it was not dialed in and precise enough to produce a consistent result. There's been a lot of research in the last 15, 20 years beyond our research that have proven that specific frequencies of radio wave stimulation will enhance the metabolism of plants. And we have just gotten ahead of the curve and studied the entire metabolism of the plant so that we're able to improve not just a small sector or small improvements in terms of its metabolism. We're able to improve the entire metabolism all simultaneously. And that's producing incredible results around the world. So if you have any kind of farm, especially if um, you're a specialty crop grower, if you're growing tree fruit or nuts or berries or broccoli or vegetables or anything like that, the human oxy plant booster is going to give that plant so much more energy that it's going to produce a lot more fruit and a lot better quality fruit. And you're going to find that you don't have to spray as much, you don't have to use as much chemicals. Organic growers love this because it's a completely organic solution and you don't need the chemicals that you're using right now. In fact, the less you use over time, the better off you're going to be, not just for the quality of produce that we all eat, but because it's not killing the microbes in the soil. It's not destroying the microbiome of the plant. So that's really all we got today, guys. I'm gonna open it up here. I want to answer some questions. I'm gonna take a drink here real quick, and I want to just answer some questions. I'm sure you guys must have some questions. I hope so, because typically when I just talk about results, there's not much questions, but I want to see. Today I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the science and understand the technical background of this, so you guys would understand, why this technology is working. Not just that it works, which is important, of course, but why it works, because that seems to be something that when I talk to farmers individually, they kind of scratch their head a little bit, So I want to see if we can help you understand that. So let's see here. That's not it. I want to just find my Facebook feed. It's a little trickier when I'm doing this live, but let's see here. I want to see. Hold on one second, guys. Just bear with me here. If you have questions, if you're thinking of questions, please type them in the comments, and I'm going to answer those for you if I can find in my Facebook feed. Oh, this is not cooperating with me, is it? All right, guys. I'm not finding this at all, guys. If you seeing this, help me out. Okay. I don't know why my live feed's not coming up, guys. I apologize, guys. My live feed is just not showing up here. Let me see here. I'm gonna go back here. I apologize, guys. Guys, this is really, I don't want to kill my feed here. I just want to look here. Let's go in the chat. Guys, if you're watching this, please let me know. Everything sounds fascinating. Thank you so much. Maria, interesting. Great. Thank you so much. I'm not seeing any comments here on the Facebook, but guys, again, we want to help you. Let's see here. Just want to see what we got here. If you guys have any comments, please let me know. I'm not seeing any comments, but I'm not seeing any comments or questions, so I want to, but that's fine. If you guys are watching this, and not everybody has a chance to catch this live, and that's understandable. If you guys are watching this, you don't have it on a replay or something like that, please type your comments, your questions into the comments here on our Facebook or our YouTube channel, because we do go back and we do answer those questions. And also, if you guys want more information about the Kemet Oxy Plant Booster itself, or you want to get a quote and find out how you can get this technology on your farm now instead of waiting for 5 or 10 years while everybody else has it already, then fill out a request for a quote form. There's a link there underneath this feed. You can do this. You can also go to our website at harvestharmonics.com and just click a request for quote and type in your information. We would love to work with you. We have farmers all over the world jumping on board with this. We have a lot of Australian guys jumping on board with this. We have South Africa. We have Tanzania. We have Mauritius. We have South America, Mexico, Honduras. We got farmers all over the world that are jumping on board with this, and we want to see as many farmers take advantage of this opportunity. There's not something that comes along every day that can give you double-digit increases in production and improve your profitability and the quality of your produce all at the same time. And this technology has been proven to do just that. And we're just adding in more and more case studies. So if you guys want to improve your farm, if you want to see better results on your farm and become one of the future farms today, give us a call or let us know how we can best help you and how we can service you, because our job is to help farmers help everybody else. We would love to talk with you. And my name is Jim Kurtz. If you have questions, please let me know. Have a great weekend, guys, and we'll see you again next week.